All right, so we were live for 25 seconds and the orientation's locked. I was trying to change the orientation on the phone and um, it's busy, but I wanted to do a quick drop in to communicate my feelings on the market and what I believe is going on. So as we know, Bitcoin is at 84K. It came down to 80K before. It broke 94K. I thought it was going to come down to 94K, and it went down to even lower than that. And now the question is, what does this mean for the market? And are we done here? Are we finished? Are you not done? Well, I expect dead cat bounces. I expect at some point we're going to have a retracement. But because we broke the 50-week EMA, because we came down to the bottom side of the Gaussian channel, and because a lot of the good news, a lot of the stimulus that we're expecting is not going to hit us until 2026, because of all of these things, I recognize a bearish trend, and I'm going to follow what the chart tells me. So what that means to me is that if we are in a bear market, which I think we are, what that means to me is that bounces are going to be good to short. So I'm going to short the bounces, and I'm going to take profit when we hit certain Fibonacci retracement lines. So some important numbers to consider right now is the 75,000, right around there. Short term, I would say 80,000, because we just came down to 80. I expected a bounce from 80. I actually expected there might have been a bounce from 94. We didn't get that. We broke straight through 94, right? So I'm expecting a bounce probably. We already bounced at 80, but if you look at the bounce that we had at 80, you will see that this bounce was nothing to write home about. I mean, this was a joke. So you'll also see that the sell pressure greatly outweighs any buying pressure. Another thing hey, what's going on there, Grace? I really can't, Ashley, what's going on? I'll try to read some of the chats, but it's going to be hard because I'm on the road. But I did want to touch bases with you and let you know my thoughts on the market, because I haven't been making many videos. Yeah, we're in a bear market. That's my thoughts on the market. And in a bear market is a bull market, just in reverse. So there's plenty of money that could be made in a bear market. So I'm not sad that we're in a bear market. I'm like, cool, this gives us a chance to accumulate Bitcoin, accumulate the champion coin at the lows. So Bitcoin in a bear market retraces to the 200-week moving average. That's right now, that's around 54K. As time continues, that 200-week moving average is going to change, right? The number is going to change. And this could actually be one of the most tremendous opportunities that we have in crypto, because I'm sure that many of you look back at this past bull market and wish that you could have bought Bitcoin at 15.5K, right? If we would have just bought Bitcoin at 15.5K, we could have rode that through the entire bull market, because Bitcoin did 7-8x, right? So by taking lower risk, we could have maximized profit and we could have been chilling. So I believe that Bitcoin, we're in a bear market. I believe it, we are, because we were at 126K and we came down to $80,000, right? And we've broken through the Gaussian channel. That means you're in a bear market, right? Broke 50-day moving average, broke the Gaussian channel. We're in a bear market. So we're going to bounce at some point. Now, do I want to risk my capital by putting it in, anticipating a bounce? And then we do get the bounce, and where do we bounce to? Do we bounce back to 94K? Do we bounce to 100K? Do we bounce to 105K? Am I willing to keep my capital in there until we bounce to these levels? And what if I don't sell in time? If I don't sell in time, that means that when we come back down, we break 80K, right? So I could end up buying now because I think we're at a bottom, and then we bounce and we go back up, waiting for us to go to 100K, 105K, and we only go to 92K. And then we come back down and we break down to 70K. And I keep my capital in there because I don't want to sell at a loss. This is what could happen by continuing to remain bullish in a bear market. It could be devastating. So a lot of these altcoins that we were bullish about, like Render, Aster, a lot of these coins are not going to do that well in the bear market. Last bear market, Solana lost 90% of its value, and Solana is one of the best coins out there. It has the most developers, has the biggest use case. It has ETFs, and Solana went down to $8. So what I'm trying to say to you is that don't be depressed that we're in a bear market. Don't be sad about the situation. Just learn from it and try to get the most out of the situation. So if the net trend is down, all you have to do is switch to shorts instead of going long. And so the bounces, I'm going to be actually shorting these bounces, right? I'm going to be looking at good entries for shorts, and it's going to be based at levels that this person wants to crash, like the market. I'm going to be looking for levels that were once, support, and these levels are going to be resistance. So I'm going to be shorting the resistance levels, and I'm going to be looking to accumulate sometime in 2026. So I'm not really sure if we're going to see, if we're really going to get the year-long bear market to November of 2026, roughly around that time. I would more likely pay attention to important levels on Bitcoin, the Fibonacci levels on Bitcoin. I mentioned a 200-week moving average. That's going to be my first area of contention until, my first chance to switch from bearish to bullish would be the 200-week moving average. That's around 54K. So the levels are 74K. The next level is previous all-time highs. That's around 69K. Next level is a 200-week moving average, 54K. Next level below that is where Bitcoin always retraces to. I believe that's a Fibonacci level. It's the 786. That is around 38K. I'm trying to take my time here driving. I hope they don't beat me. So 38K. Again, I think if we're able to get Bitcoin if you're able to catch Bitcoin retracing to 38K, I think that is a good entry, as long as you remain patient. Remember that the market takes the money from the impatient hands and it puts it into the patient hands. So if you're willing to be patient, let's say you DCA at 38K and we go lower than that, right? We go down to 32K. I would still keep my position at 38K, and I will DCA anywhere around there. I think it's a phenomenal entry. So this all being said, I'm saying this happening in 2026 at some point. In the meantime, in the short term, we can bounce. We're at extreme fear. We've been in extreme fear for weeks. So we'll probably fall a little bit more. Maybe we'll fall to the 70s. And at that point, we could get a mega bounce. And by mega bounce, I mean, like, maybe we'll come up to the 90s. So short term, I'm still bearish, man. Like, I looked at this bounce from 80K to 85K, and I looked at it and I'm like, this is underwhelming, right? Bitcoin has shown pure weakness since we came down from 103, since we came from 126, but especially 103, no reaction at all. Look at the volume. Look at the volume on TradingView. Look at the chart and look at the volume. Every time that we have a sell, look how high the volume is on the sell. And then look at the buys when the price is going up. Look how low the volume is on the buys. Also look at the RSI. Look at the daily and weekly RSI. how we've just been declining every week. It's just been weaker and weaker strength in the market. So until something changes, these bounces, I don't trust them. I don't trust any of the bounces. And, you know, it's too bad in a sense because there are many coins out there that could have done extremely well. By extremely well, I mean like 20x's, that kind of well. But it's too dangerous. It's too risky at this point because I can end up, look at a coin like Render, right? I can end up buying Render. And if Bitcoin comes down to 70K, I mean, Sui, I could buy Sui, right? Sui's like $1.37, right? It seems very, very cheap. But if Bitcoin comes down to 70K, you know, that's half my money gone, right? 50% gone right there. And that could happen in one day. I could end up buying Sui at $1.37. The good news that comes out in the market right now is not moving the market up. You know, pay attention. The government opened up. Did the market go up when the government opened? No. So what kind of news do you need for this market to do well, for the market to... The good news is not making the market go up, right? That signals to me that we're in a bear market. If good news cannot push the market up, that means you're in a bear market. And when the bad news comes out, we go lower than before, right? We go low, but we go lower than before. So good news doesn't move the market up, but bad news moves the market lower than before. So at some point we get a reaction at support and we get a bounce, right? So far the bounces have been weak. 80 to 85K is ridiculous, right? So, okay, so maybe we need to go to 75. Maybe we need to go to 70. And then we get a huge bounce from 70, right? But again, if we're getting these kind of weak bounces, and the second thing, I'm looking at the volume of the whales. The whales are selling, right? If these, especially Bitcoin OGs, if Bitcoin OGs are selling, I think that could have been one of our first indications that we're about to switch bearish. Once we had the OGs starting to sell, you look at on-chain analysis, you see that like a lot of these OGs are selling, then that is a good indication that things have changed. So we have OG selling. All right, let me see if I can read. Okay. Hi, butthead. What? Really? Okay, that's why the person left. Hey, thanks for subscribing, Gray. Appreciate it. Yeah, I am. What's my strategy? I think I laid out most of the strategy. I'm going to be shorting. I'm going to be shorting the pumps. I'm going to be shorting at the price support levels because I believe that they're going to be resistance. And I'm just going to be patient, and I'm going to chill out. I'm looking for Bitcoin to come down to the 200-day moving average till I really flip bullish. I think it's very dangerous to try to get these short-term pumps. It's very, very dangerous. And I know that at some point my words are going to come back to bite me because we're going to see a short-term rebound, and people are going to get really excited. One of the things I did notice is that Bitcoin dominance, it's looking like it's bearish, like it's going to fall. So meaning that the power of the purchasing is going to be more in the altcoins than Bitcoin. But there are other signs that I see that are also powerful signs, and the bearish signs that I see outweigh the bullish signs, right? So Bitcoin dominance, how that chart is looking, is a bullish sign. But if you look at USDT dominance, you'll see that we are at the heights, but it looks like we might be breaking through the resistance line. And if we break through that resistance line, then things could go really, really bad. It could get really, really bad really, really quickly. The second thing is that all of these catalysts that we have that are major catalysts for the altcoins, the main catalyst is the liquidity that's about to come in, or the liquidity that's going to come in from the Fed and from the governments. A lot of this liquidity is scheduled for 2026. So am I going to really buy now and wait to 2026 while being in a bear market, right? And I could lose more than 50% of my money very quickly. I could lose that in a day. Am I really going to put that money on risk waiting for the liquidity to finally come in and hit? So another thing that President Trump has said is that he's going to put $2,000. Americans are going to start getting $2,000 checks, and this is going to be one of the liquidity pumps that I've mentioned this years ago that this is going to happen. But if you look at the time schedule for this, the time schedule is for 2026. Am I really going to sit here and wait for some time in 2026 while I'm in a bear market and I'm buying coins? And these coins, if you look at them, you know, some of these coins are falling like 10% today. Am I really going to sit here and put my capital at risk and wait for mid-2026? It says it's like mid-2026. You know, a $10,000 portfolio invested now, waiting for mid-2026, you know, it could turn into $1,000 very, very quickly, you know. So, and on the other hand, if I were to short some of these cryptos at resistance, you know, maybe I'll be conservative, you know, maybe this portfolio would turn into like 25K, and then when the liquidity finally starts hitting, maybe at that point I could start taking some of the funds and you know, start acquiring some Bitcoin at the 200 week SMA, and just DCA into Bitcoin from there. And if we continue to go lower, just continue to DCA. And then when we finally have another bull market or bull cycle, right, at that point I will have the capital, should altcoins come back, I would have the capital to start deploying some of these funds into altcoins, right? So I think that is probably a safer strategy. And you know, I cannot give financial advice. Nothing I said here is financial advice. You guys all know the jargon, right? It's just my opinion on the market. And we've seen through this journey, if you apply the principle from the prior bull markets to this bull market, mainly the principles from what we learned from altcoins, you would not have done well this bull market if you apply the same principles for what you've learned from altcoins. All right, well, why is that? Well, because when we came up, we did not get the blow off top that we expected. We did not get a major altcoin season as we expected. Like the altcoin season in 2021, that lasted a few months, right? We did not have that this cycle. If you look at the altcoins that ran, the ones that ran this year, they took different turns, right? First, it was like meme coins on Solana, and then it was the DEXs. Then at one point it was AI coins that ran like once or twice. Gaming barely ran, right? You remember the 2021 Gala Games ran and did like 1,000x, right? This cycle, and then after that we had dinosaur coins running, right? We had ADA, we had XRP of all coins, right? So if you apply the same principles back then to altcoins, you would have failed. You would have done badly, right? In 2021, we also had launch pads did astronomically well, 100x's everywhere, right? This cycle, they died. They didn't do that. So this is why I'm saying that to be risk averse and to protect capital, that to short the resistances, and then at some point when you think it's about to flip from bearish to bullish, Bitcoin hits the 200-day EMA, right? To start putting money into Bitcoin, because we don't know where Ethereum is going to end up. All right, so Ethereum, when Bitcoin was at around 70K, Ethereum was at $1,300, right? So I'll be very surprised if Ethereum doesn't go back to these levels in the bear market. Ethereum, which is the number 2 altcoin, is going to get murdered too. Ethereum is not immune. So all of these cryptos are going to get murdered. Solana in the bear market was $8. I'll never forget that, right? So a second thing you can do, if you feel really risky, you feel like a frog didn't jump. If you feel really risky, then you could also acquire your favorite L1s at the depths of the bear market when Bitcoin is below the 200 EMA with a little bit of your funds. I would not be using a huge part of my portfolio. I would just get Bitcoin. But if I feel a little bit risky, you know, I haven't seen Solana at this price. I didn't think it would go back to $8 or whatever it goes to. I don't know what it's going to go to. Your favorite coins. Look at the coins that performed this cycle, right? Aster, there's a million coins. Avantis, a million coins. Render, all of these coins that performed this cycle. And at the depths of the bear market, I wouldn't be acquiring these until like the end of this year, though. You know, like, because I would expect, like, if I put money into these coins, that they might go to zero. Because a lot of altcoins, the majority of altcoins, 90% of them, over 90% of them go to zero in a bear market. Zero, not, you know, a little bit of money left. No, they go to zero. So coins that actually last 3 cycles, like ADA, that's not normal, right? So I'm gonna assume a lot of these coins are going to go to zero. But if there are some coins that overperformed this cycle, one of the few coins that beat Bitcoin at the end of 2026, after I already acquired my Bitcoin, I was buying at the 200 SMA and below that. I was DCAing. If I want to put in a little bit on my portfolio, a fraction of my portfolio, which I have built, and I've made money from shorts. I've made money from shorts during the bear market. If I want to put a fraction of this in to, for gambling purposes, I realize I'm gambling, then maybe I'll acquire some of these. They're now large caps. They won't be large caps in the future. They'll be small caps. If I want to play around with $200 there, $100 there, maybe I'll acquire some of them and just chill out. And I'll just take it easy, man. I'll just chill out. And I'll wait for the market to rebound. How's the cycle going to be now that we have institutions in it? Well, it already reacted a little bit different, but you know, there's still fear and greed, and it's not that the institutions buying are so much smarter than does the retailer. There's only there's a rule of money where 90% of the money go to 10% of the people, right? So, and these include big institutions too. So there are institutions that made a killing this cycle, but most people lost money, including institutions. Institutions have lost money, especially during this October, I think it was October 10th, that we had that flash crash thanks to Binance. I think that's the camel that broke that's the straw that broke the camel's back, because we've seen coins lose 75% of their value in one day on a wick, and then they liquidated everyone. It took a tremendous amount of money out of the crypto market, and it put it into the hands of a few, and that was a scam. And also, we've seen what has happened with these meme coins. We remember that the Trump meme coin came out. It took a lot of money from a lot of everybody. I remember everyone sold their Ethereum and their Solana to buy Trump coin, or a lot of people did. And then the Trump Foundation, they bought Solana and Ethereum with the money that everyone put. So yeah, it's the 90-10% rule of money, where 90% of the money goes to 10% of the people. So the only way to make money in this market is you have to be a contrarian, and you have to do the opposite of what 90% of the people do. And as we continue to go down in the bear market, most of the people are not going to sell. They're going to sell. The only time they're going to sell is when we're at the bottom of the bear market. When Bitcoin hits the 200 SMA, that's when they're going to sell. So use this as an opportunity to set yourself up well financially. Not financial advice, of course. It's almost like I'm talking to myself. But to prepare yourself, this is actually an opportunity. And as far as the bounces that are going to come, I mean, they're hard to predict, right? And even if I catch a bounce, I'm not going to be sure where to sell, right? If we are in a bear market, which I think we are, and a bounce happens, where am I going to sell? Oh, I'm going to sell what the prior support and resistance is. Okay, what if we don't reach the price support or resistance because we're in a bear market? In a bear market, good news doesn't help the market, but bad news makes the market drop 20%, right? And this could always happen, man. But it was a good chat. I'm going to get going, but do expect more updates on the channel, and I will see you guys at the top. Crypto.XL, peace. Take care.